shadows fade, the truth comes through. Fresh start in the morning blue. Hey, now blue sky shining down. Let your feet don't touch the ground. Laugh it off, let the good times stay. Oh yeah, it's a blue sky day. Coffee, steam, and a smile breaks free. Simple joys are enough for me. Stones roll out, but I don't mind. Sun's still waiting on the other side. Turn it up, feel the sound. Good vibrations all around. Hey, now blue sky shining down. Lift your feet, don't touch the ground. Laugh it off, let the good times stay. Wake up, sunlight tapping on the door. Feels like I've been here all before. Radio humming, the world feels right. Every little thing's in tune tonight. Shadows fade, the truth comes through. Fresh start in the morning blue. Hey now, blue sky shining down. Lift your feet, don't touch the ground. Laugh it off, let the good times stay. Oh yeah, it's a blue sky day.
Woo! Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat. I so do appreciate you tuning in this morning. We've got so much to get to, so I'm just going to jump right in if that's all right by you. Go ahead, subscribe to the channel. Visit patriotpumpenergy.com. Get your bottle of premium pre-workout today if you want to support the program. Afterwards, after 6 to 8, I know I'm a little late here, folks, but after the show at about 8 a.m. Central Time, we are going to take some chats. I'm going to take your chats at the very end today. Super chats. We are going to talk about small businesses and what they've got to say about this new registry. Now, I mentioned this like a couple of days ago. The show's archived, but I want to dig deeper into this because new businesses, entrepreneurs there in Pontiac, Illinois, they are saying that this new registry feels like they've got to check in with Big Brother. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about this TMZ poll. And upon further review and putting things in Google Translate, because I found it odd that my friends who speak Spanish, like bilingual, and they didn't understand what Bad Bunny was saying in the performance. Upon further review, it turns out Bad Bunny had like a lot of political messaging, and I'll piece through it piece by piece, what political messaging outside of the, America is every country, every Latin country, Cuba, Colombia, Peru, that is America, according to Bad Bunny. Outside of that and his love, don't hate BS. I mean, come on, this guy, like literally a couple of days ago, he goes, "God bless America," burns American flag. Okay, right, in a dress, in a transgender dress. And then, he's like, "Love, don't hate." Oh, but a couple of days ago at the Grammys, I'm going to say F ice. So yeah, real loving guy. This one is outside of all of that, there was some political messaging in his performance that you might not have caught. So I'm going to kind of walk you through the performance. We're going to go through the translation of what he was actually saying, because I told you, like, I don't speak Spanish. I don't know. My Spanish speaking friends, they were, texting back and forth with me. And I was like, so what is he saying? And they said, honestly, I don't know. I can't understand it. And there's a reason why, because it's like pornographic. Like my friends, they're, semi bad. They come from Latin speaking homes and are Latin, Latino. Um, but they don't speak like that in their homes. It's really nasty and obscure pornographic lyrics. Okay. uh and like they didn't talk like that in their homes, like most Latin, like Latino families. Like if you were to speak like that in your home, or uh you'd get smacked around, but they didn't even pick up on it because it was like so gross. um it was about erections and eating butt and things that I'm not even really comfortable saying. But we're going to go through the translation, because honestly, I think that Trump needs to get on this. The FCC, he needs to direct the FCC to find the NFL, because if these lyrics were to have been sung in English, I don't think he would have gotten away with that, or the NFL would have gotten away with that. So yeah, we're going to compare Bad Bunny's performance to Kid Rock as well. And there's a TMZ poll out there comparing Bad Bunny to the Kid Rock TPUSA halftime performance. And TMZ put this poll out there, and actually did not go probably the way TMZ anticipated. Like 60-30 people voting for the Kid Rock performance over the Bad Bunny performance. So we'll get to that. And yes, I stumbled upon this. So I guess this is like from 2023. He was charged, this Pakistani citizen, but now it's going viral because obviously the SAVE Act is being talked about and possibly being voted on. If it weren't for weak-kneed Republicans, it probably would have already been voted on past the House and Senate, but we've got weak-kneed Republicans in Congress who, run away from anybody who says, I'm pro-universal ballots and I'm pro-ballot harvesting. I'm pro-vote by mail and anti-voter ID. Run so far from those people. Do not vote for those people. That should be your barometer when voting. For your elected officials. Like straight up ask them, like, hey, are you for voter ID? Hey, are you for ending universal vote by mail ballots? We got to go back to where vote by mail ballots were just for military. If we don't, and I know everybody's talking about the gubernatorial race, I don't do that here so much, get involved in Illinois politics anymore. Why? I don't interview candidates too much. If I do, it's because, there's a story there, or I particularly really like that candidate. But I try to stay away from it because Illinois politics sucks. They just suck. There's no good candidates usually. Darren Bailey is by far the best candidate I've ever seen. He's a man of faith, and I've told you, like, personally, I just know that Darren Bailey didn't want to go do this. He's got like this farm, he's got his grandkids, and he's been fighting for a good while, and like he doesn't have to go do it, but God told him, hey, you've got to go do this, and he's obedient, and he's obedient to God, which is a huge thing for me. Like, you've got to be very open about your faith. That's a barometer for me when voting. Are you pro voter ID, and are you a man of God? And that's my barometer. Like, if you don't talk about God, or if you're not willing to do that on stage or via your platform, then I want nothing to do with you as a candidate. Sorry, but Darren Bailey, best candidate I think I've ever seen. it's unfortunate that there's just so much strife, I guess is what I will call it, and anger in the Republican Party, like not even just the gubernatorial race, but like every race. There's just so much like anger when it comes to primaries, and I just stay out of it because it's like you've got candidates who, and this is the Illinois GOP's problem. You've got candidates who drink way too much and have character flaws, and you push them out there, and that's not good. But then you've got candidates who have no idea what they're talking about, haven't been fighting the good fight for years, and they've got no idea what they're talking about, which, you know, your lack of experience isn't completely a means for a dismissal. But you've got people who don't know what they're talking about. They just get into it, you know, for all the wrong reasons, to elevate their platforms, whatever it is. And they don't have no clue what they're talking about. They don't read the legislation that comes out. They don't track the bills. They don't know what our financial state is. And they've just got no clue what they're talking about. You've got Republicans in the Illinois GOP that just drink way too much. I just don't think that there's great candidates. It's very rare finding great candidates in Illinois, in the Republican Party. And I've noticed it, like, just moving south. It's like Southern Democrats are more conservative and talk about God far more than Republicans in Illinois. And that should not be the case. They should be with the Republican platform. There's an actual platform. And if you don't follow that platform, then you're not a Republican and you need to get out. Like, it's plain and simple. But anyway, yeah, that's my barometer. Hey, are you a man of God? And hey, are you pro voter ID? Because I don't think without voter ID, without county clerks, Republican or Democrat in the state of Illinois, who believe in voter ID and who are anti mail-in ballots, if you don't get every county clerk on board with that in the state of Illinois, you are never going to win an election again. And after this story, you're going to say, I see now why you say that, Kat. There's this Pakistani citizen. He was living in Pakistani and he voted in California's 2020 elections. But it gets worse than that. It's so much worse than just voting in California's 2020 election. He intimidated people to vote for him and for Joe Biden in the 2020 election. There was ballot harvesting going on. He was hoarding ballots at his Pakistani residence. And I don't know how this happened. And I know that it has to happen because we have all the same laws as California. Quite literally in Illinois, there have been times where California law is just duplicated and our legislators vote on it. Like, it's just straight up copy paste. We're going to vote and we're going to implement a California law. So yeah, you don't think that this happens widespread. You're naive. You're stupid. You're not living in reality. So we're going to get to that. But welcome to the Conservative Cat Show. This is a place where we shine the light. And we shine the light on people, the policies, the politicians who think that your freedom and your wallet are optional. And today we're going to be talking about a little town called Pontiac, Illinois. I used to live around there. I used to live in Dwight. It's a cute little town, quaint little downtown, little summer festival they got going on. It's really cute. But what we're talking about today is the not so cute part of local government. Yesterday, we talked about local government and how, you know, the state is trying to allow local governments like townships and counties to impose a $5 fee per burn if you wanted to do an open burn on your property that's outside of city limits. And what's frustrating about that is that there's fines. So if you're caught without a permit, a burn permit, you're going to get slapped with $100,000 fee, possibly a $500,000 fee. if you burn on a no burn day. Right? So we talked about that a lot yesterday. Local government's so important. Local government creeping into your life. This was an attack on your property rights. That bill was an attack on your property rights. They've introduced that. They're going to amend it and change some of the language, probably because the backlash from the community, they didn't like that bill at all. But there's this other one, and it's a local government sort of ordinance, I guess. They want to charge $10 registrations, $10 registration fee annually to register your business. Now, I know what you're thinking. There's no way that this is constitutional. It is. A lot of people or a lot of municipalities require businesses to register. I find that's insane. To be insane. Municipalities, local government, mandating you to pay a fee to register your business. All you should really have to open a business in this country is monies and maybe a storefront. Okay, that's it. Money's like to get it started up and rolling. I don't even really like the whole like LLC, but I understand it. We do this at a state level. You pull out an LLC, you register your business with the state, but doing it twice with your municipality, I really don't like that. Now, a lot of municipalities do this, so I want to be clear. Pontiac is not like an outlier here. A lot of municipalities do this, but this is a small town, quaint little town. And they're going to find out real quick that their businesses are not going to put up with this, or new businesses are going to be deterred, especially if this $10 turns into $20, $50, $60. If this registration becomes much more than 10, or if they're selective of what kind of businesses are registered or are allowed to registered. This is deterring business, deterring entrepreneurship, and the city of Pontiac has proposed a new business registration program. And officials say, we're trying to improve communication. We're trying to improve zoning compliance. We just want our ducks in a row. And it sounds innocent, right? $10, you register your business with the city. Who doesn't want better dialogue between city government and the business community? Everybody wants business and community members to be working hand in hand. Kumbaya. But you dig a little deeper into this, and then you really start to question, well, why the hell do they want me to register my business? What's the plan here? So the businesses in Pontiac, they're going to have to register with the city, $10 every year. So that way the city knows you exist. And I'm not kidding. That's quite literally what they said as to their reasoning for this. We just want to know you exist. Okay. The city claims that this is not about money. No. They just want to keep track of who you are, what you're doing, and what's going on in the city. Okay. And they want to make sure you're following the rules, the zoning rules. Now, look, like I said, business owners, they already have license. You have to follow regulations at a state level. And I would love to see maybe not it done at a state level, but just the city level. But having it twice is what really pisses me off. If this guy really wanted to, if the city really wanted to, what they could do is go to the Secretary of State's office, ask for LLCs, businesses registered with the state using addresses in Pontiac, Illinois. This is very simple. If you want to know what businesses are in Pontiac, Illinois, it's kind of easy. You just kind of ask the Secretary of State for the information. So there's a lot of things. Like if you're a realtor, There's a lot of regulations that you have to follow as far as licensing and state licensing goes. You have to continue your education if you're a massage therapist. You have to continue your education. You have to renew your permits and your licenses every year to keep your license valid. Okay, so you're paying a lot of money to the state in state fees. You even have to do something with the federal government. So at the end of the day, like the IRS, right, the Red Department of Revenue, you have to get an EIN, an employer identification number. So like there's ways to find out if these businesses exist in Pontiac because there's a state level and a federal level. I mean, you have to file your taxes, right? So what Pontiac is doing here is clearly they just want to tack on more bureaucracy and more BS. Okay. This has nothing to do with wanting to communicate more effectively with businesses or making sure businesses are compliant. And I'll get to that a little bit later, like if they're compliant with zoning ordinances and if they're complying with city ordinances. Like there's already systems in place in order, there's already systems in place to enforce those existing ordinances and regulations at a local level. And if there's not, then you've got a problem. Okay. But Kyle DeLong, he's an entrepreneur, a real estate broker. He's not impressed with this new business registration. He's quoted in the Center Square. He operates multiple businesses in Pontiac. He says, "This to me is another hoop I have to jump through. Seems redundant because I have a state license that's in good standing. Think about that. The city wants him to pay a fee for something that he's already proven compliance with, that he's a legitimate business. He's operating within state. He's paying his taxes. Okay. So like he's not doing anything shady with his business. He's already done his homework and done his work to comply. And why? Well, the city city zoning director says that they want to know what's going on. That's why they want to implement a business registration program. And I don't know about you, but this sounds like classic Big Brother. We need to know everything about you. And they don't even come up with anything good, like a reason why this would be. I mean, hell, if you just need more revenue for the city, just come out and frickin' say it, right? I would much rather that than having you come out and say, well, we're just kind of nosy. We want to know what you're doing and when. So the Pontiac Director of Building and Zoning, Greg Knowles, said that the goal is to create a database of business owners, building owners, and emergency contacts. It sounds helpful until you realize, this database is going to be a way for government to keep tabs on you, where you work, who you employ, possibly, and what you own and what your business is like. And that's really none of the government's business. Get your nose out of my business, quite literally. Because nothing says we support small business like requiring a database just to operate legally. So you're operating legally in the city or in the state. You're in compliance with the Secretary of State, LLCs, IRS. You're paying your taxes. You got an EIN number. You're a legit business. And you're operating legally, but they say, that's not enough. We want you to be a part of this Rolodex, essentially, our city Rolodex of businesses, and then you'll be compliant. So Kyle DeLong, he warns that, hey, this could be the start of something a little more intrusive. Say Pontiac, we already have 3 massage parlors, or we already have 2 dog groomers. We really don't want another one. It could start to be intrusive. It could start to be favoritism, and especially like small towns like this. Who gets I my sister, she owns a dog grooming business. I don't want another dog grooming business in Pontiac because that wouldn't be great for her business. Obviously, that's a competitor. Perhaps I deny this person business registry, registry on our or through our business program. This is what I could see happening, especially in a small town like this. Hold on one sec. Once local government knows who you are, knows your business, how to contact you, what's to stop them from sending you fines, citations, or surprise inspections, also out of retaliation. So say, you didn't vote for this guy, or you ran a campaign locally against the sheriff there, and he's the preferred establishment pick, and shame on you for speaking out or wanting your guy to get in. This is how petty local government can be, or politics can be at a local level. So we're going to send you a fine for having your garbage can too full at your business. And we're going to do that, and we're going to surprise you with a health inspection. Why? Because you raised a fuss about tax increases at our last council meeting. And I could foresee something like that happening at a local level, and that's not going to help businesses, folks. That's controlling them. That's the establishment making decisions on who's registered, who gets to register, and who doesn't. And here's another little wrinkle. They say they want to do this to create like a city database or a directory. And they want to send like welcome packets or like, for the new residents who come into Pontiac. They want to say, hey, here's all the businesses, right? And that's what their reasoning is for the business registration program. Really, we know the true reason, it's control. But this is kind of a funny little wrinkle. They say, well, we're going to put out a business directory. You go to the Pontiac website, you click on the Chamber of Commerce, they already have one. Like, oh, how many dog groomers are in my city? And where are they? Like, that's their justification for the business registration program. That's funny. You already have one of those. So that can't be the reason why you want this registration program, because it already, helps people with outreach to businesses. The Pontiac Chamber of Commerce already does all of that. So the taxpayers essentially are going to be footing the bill for duplicative services that already exist. And these business owners are going to be footing the bill, the $10. Really the taxpayers, because that $10 gets passed on to the consumer. So they're going to be footing the bill for duplicative services. We want to create a business directory. Well, that's going to take staff, city staff. But they've already got it done. Like, there's already one. Like, you can literally go on the website and surf their business directory. $10 now, $100 soon. You're exactly right. It's only a matter of time. And really, what I foresee happening is the penalties. What happens if you don't register your business and you just operate your business, out of your home or something, and you didn't register with the city? They might come down and do some harsh penalties here if you don't register with them. So this is what government outreach is. And what they're trying to do is disguise it as community improvement. It's a classic pattern. They'll say, oh, there's a problem. The communication isn't effective. We don't know what businesses are where in this downtown area or in Pontiac. And we need to fix this problem. Okay. But there is no actual problem. They just invented a new program that will inevitably make business owners' lives harder. And they are making the lives harder of the people they claim are they're helping. Oh, well, I just want to invite you to my business meetings, and we want to connect. Maybe I don't want to go to your freaking business meeting, dude. Stay out of my business. You work for me. And that's the mentality that these city officials, your local government has. They think that you work for them. It's the opposite. We pay their salaries with our taxpayer dollars. They work for us. It's not the other way around. So the city officials will say, oh, it's for communications, it's for zoning compliance, and we're not making money off of this. If somebody has 4 businesses, which isn't unheard of, 2, 3 businesses, especially in rural America, a lot of people have a lawn service, or they have a junk collecting service, or a mechanic, a backyard mechanic. They have multiple businesses. That's not unheard of. So what, I have to register all of my businesses, so that's like 3 businesses. That's $30 a year from just me. And then I know Joe down the street, he's got 3 businesses. That's $60. I mean, it starts to add up. Come on now. We know that this is a revenue making endeavor. I know it's just a $10 fee right now, but it's the principle that they can charge you this $10 fee just to own a business and have it operate in the city in which you live. So like I said, if they truly wanted to know the businesses that are in Pontiac, or they were curious about it, they could just ask for state records. Okay, the Secretary of State's office, there's tax records, there's licensing databases. So they're lazy. The city officials are either lazy and they don't want to go do that, or they want to implement a $10 fee just because they can. And you could be following all the legal hoops, following zoning rules, paying your taxes. But if you're not registered with the city, then you're operating illegally, or you're operating outside of the rules, and we're going to come down with you on a penalty possibly, or we're going to force you to register. This is really messed up. I don't even know how it's constitutional, to be honest with you. But a lot of municipalities do it. And they're not really even giving you a good reason as to why they're doing it. They're just saying, we want communication to be better, and we want to ensure that businesses are following zoning rules. Well, the director of building and zoning, isn't that your job? To enforce zoning rules? And is it because you're lazy? You just want it all right there, what businesses are there? You don't want to go collect the state records. And are you not enforcing zoning rules right now? What have you been doing all the way up until this point? You know what I mean? There's mechanisms in place to enforce regulations like zoning already at a city level through city ordinances. And you have the disposal of the city law enforcement, police at your disposal. Okay. And I know people are going to say it's just $10. Yeah. Well, that's the carrot they dangle before you accept more control over your life. And, next year could be 15, 20. And then, you register your business, and depending on, how the city government feels about you, you might be facing more inspections. You might be giving them ammunition for the regulatory state to creep in and spread its tentacles all over your life by registering your business. If you register your business, they know you're on their radar, and they're going to, make you fill out more forms and do more inspections and attend to these meetings, these community meetings with business owners. And, it's sad because small businesses And these owners, they don't have the time or the effort or like the energy to fight this. They're busy. Some of these people have 3 businesses, and the government pulls shit like this, and then they're like, well, I'll just pay the $10, because I don't have time to deal with it, and I'm not going to show up to my city council meeting and fight over $10 a year. So what do I want entrepreneurs to do? Well, I want entrepreneurs like Kyle DeLong to stand up. This is unnecessary regulation. What have they been doing up to this point? If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? It sounds like they don't even have really great reasons to implement this business registration program. Like, oh, the city's suffering. We can't collect garbage. Our infrastructure is crumbling. We need another revenue source. Hell, I would be more for that than, well, we're just kind of nosy and we want to know. But even if you were nosy, you could go to the state and get the state records that already exist. So it's like extremely duplicative. And we need to ask the hard questions. I want the entrepreneurs to ask, hey, why does Pontiac need a separate registration when the state already tracks businesses? Why do they need another one? Why are they duplicating or, trying to pitch this registration as a means to create a business directory when that service is already provided for or is already provided by the Chamber of Commerce? There's already a business directory. And what century is this? Like, do people not understand that Google is a thing, right? Like, oh, we need to create a business directory for our new residents, and we need to hand them a packet that says, a hairdresser is on this street and a dog groomer is on this street. Like, if these business owners are worth of salt, right, they'd just put their business on Google Analytics or whatever it's called, and like, you Google, dog groomer near me, and that's your business directory. Like, what century are we living in where like government thinks that they need to hand you a thick packet of all the businesses that exist in the city? Like, I think that people are capable of figuring out where to go get their hair done. Okay. And like I said, I think that just knowing how petty local politics can be, I know that this could turn into something very intrusive, and there's a potential for malfeasance and nefarious activity. There's just a potential for it, where you register certain businesses and you don't register others. You retaliate against business owners who don't support you in local elections. You retaliate because he stole your girlfriend, right? I could see something like that happening in small town America. Like, this is just ammunition for people in government to retaliate against their private sector counterparts. And like I've always told you, people in the public sector tend to be very jealous of people in the private sector. So I don't know what the true goal of this thing is, whether it's a money-making thing. I don't know. Obviously, more control. Perhaps it's an initiative by the building zoning director because he wants to build his resume. He can say, oh, look what I did. I built this business directory. I created the business registration program. And he can take that and go, sit on a board somewhere or make more money, and maybe it's a resume builder for him. But I just think it's extremely duplicative, unnecessary, especially in a small town like this. Like, maybe a larger municipality, kind of. It's harder to police. But a lot of those larger municipalities, like, say, a Chicago, there's thousands, hundreds of employees, government employees dedicated to enforcing zoning regulations. There's entire departments, and like, I get it. Like, maybe Pontiac doesn't have a ton of people to enforce zoning. But like, what have they been doing up to this point? Clearly, there's some sort of enforcement mechanism in place. Kyle DeLong, he's quoted, he talks about how, I had a tenant had some stuff out in the front yard. The city called me up, and within 15 minutes, I got it cleared out. So like, there's obviously people working, and they will, enforce, city ordinances. What's the point of having the government there if they're not going to do their jobs, or if they're going to keep saying like, oh, our jobs are too hard and we have to make it harder for you because our jobs aren't simple enough, So look, hey, ask your city council members, those in Pontiac, hey, why are you infringing on the freedom of local business owners to do business in the city in which they reside? Why are you infringing on that freedom? And let's not forget the bigger picture. This isn't just about Pontiac. This is about government asserting their control over private enterprise across America. And really what's happening is you've got public sector losers who couldn't make it in the private sector, and they decide to make your life miserable just simply because they're jealous. They're jealous of you, and every new registration, every new fee, every new database that they want you to be a part of, it is a step toward making you ask permission to work instead of working freely and prospering. And you have to get the okay from them. That's ultimately what this is about, is getting the okay from them, because they hate you. So folks, I don't know about you, but I don't want to live in a world where businesses are required to get government approval. People in the private sector are required to get government approval to prosper. Freedom doesn't come, in a packet from City Hall. It comes from earning it, working for it, and keeping your government out of your way. And that's where true freedom is. And, it might sound convenient. Oh, they're helping businesses. They want to improve communication. They want to ensure, zoning regulations are followed. And it might all sound hunky-dory. But at the end of the day, your freedom is based on you working, you earning it, and keeping them out of your way. So don't let them tell you that this is helpful. It's not. It's not going to help you. It's just going to cost you money and time. And, you've got a business to run. So don't hand them over your money and time. Just because somebody thinks that city databases and convenience and knowing where you're at is more important than your rights, don't hand over your rights to them. So smash that like button, share this out with your friends, subscribe to the channel. I so do appreciate you being here. I will never be in favor of vote by mail at all, for all, only for a very selected few. The smaller that pool is, the more we can control it. This vote by mail for all nationwide is just asking for trouble. Exactly. We're going to get to a story based out of California where a Pakistani was able to collect several ballots at his Pakistani address, and he's facing 14 felonies, election fraud. Oh yeah, election fraud doesn't happen. It's not widespread. Okay, there's that instance. There was, I think it was in Portland, Oregon, or Washington, maybe Washington State. Pretty sure it was a landlady. She had requested vote by mail ballots for all of her tenants and casted ballots in their names without their knowledge. That was one. There was a Chinese national who voted in the 2024 election. We know Illinois was caught kind of with their pants down. Oh gosh, we registered over 500 illegal immigrants on our automatic voter registration because, the renewals, the driver's license new renewals, and they said it was a glitch in their system. And actually, of those 500, I think it was like about 14, 15 who had voted. So they went beyond registering to vote, but illegal immigrants had actually voted in our elections. Look this up. This is real. And, the left will say, oh, well, there's no widespread voter fraud, so we don't have to have voter ID, or we don't have to get rid of vote by mail ballots. That's BS. It's kind of like saying, well, nobody's robbed my house yet. Why would I put a lock on my door if nobody's robbed my house yet? Really? So yeah, if anybody is pro vote by mail ballot, universal for vote by mail ballot for all, run. Do not vote for that person. Ask them if they're for vote by mail ballots for all. They say yes, that person needs to be investigated, because there is no reason why this was only a thing 6 years ago, vote by mail for all. We didn't do it in our elections prior to that. So the only reason why they would want to keep doing it is because they're benefiting from the loopholes or the potential corruption that vote by mail-its bring. Anyway, so let's talk about Bad Bunny. I promise we'll get to the Pakistani who voted in our 2020 elections and has been being charged with 14 felonies in regards to election fraud. Incredible story out of California. There's a video that's going viral right now on social media of the sheriff there talking about the case. And we'll get to that here in a second, but I do want to talk about Bad Bunny and the Super Bowl halftime show. I talked a lot about it yesterday. It was a big middle finger to the United States because he's saying the whole thing in Spanish. And it wasn't even so much that he's saying it in Spanish, but rather he the type of person he is, the dress, the lighting the American flag on fire, saying F ICE at the Grammys, right? That is why it was a middle finger to the United States, because, nobody cares about this guy even. Nobody knows his music. All the NFL players, they were asked, and I think like maybe one or two of them knew like maybe a song of Bad Bunny's, but like it's just a slap in the face to say you're spitting in the face of America. Like, he's not a household name. Now, I'm no fan of Katy Perry or Lady Gaga or Taylor Swift, but these are household names, right? Marilyn Monroe, I think, or not Marilyn Monroe, Madonna, sorry. Madonna, she performed at a Super Bowl. Kid Rock, or not Kid Rock, I'm trying to think, Michael Jackson, Prince, Creed. Like, these are household names. It was a spit in the face to America because, like, it's supposed to be mainstream, right? And this is the National Football League. There's no Latin people in the NFL. How many starters for, the two teams? I think it was the Seahawks and Patriots. How many of them were Latin American or Latino? No one, right? So, yeah, this wasn't, soccer. Okay, it might have made sense for Bad Bunny to perform at the World Cup or some sort of, soccer because, that's loaded with Latinos. It would have made sense, but this, no. I could even say like Rihanna and Beyonce would have made more sense. I don't like a lot of these people. I've rambled off these household names because traditionally the Super Bowl, at least within my lifetime, has been nasty. And what I mean by that, sexually deviant and inappropriate for children to watch. Okay. But anyway, there's a lot of controversy here, and it was a big middle finger to the U.S. because he's saying the whole thing in Spanish. And it's not so much that, but like nobody knows who he is. And like, that's a big F you to the Super Bowl fans, right? That were there because they couldn't understand the show and they didn't even know how to sing along because they didn't know the guy. They didn't know the singer. Okay. So, say you didn't even know his songs, and you were sitting there at the Super Bowl. It was a bit of a miss, obviously, because They couldn't understand it, but it wasn't even really performed all that well. And he had some political messaging, but you couldn't get the political messaging like Kendrick Lamar. He had a very interesting halftime show. It was very metaphorical and political and got people talking. I wasn't even really a big fan of it then, but I thought it was interesting. And it got Americans talking. And I would say that more people knew who Kendrick Lamar was, and that type of music, sits well with the nation, or at least the NFL community. Super Bowl fans more so than this guy. But I'd imagine for a lot of Americans who didn't understand what he was singing, they didn't pick up on the political messaging that he had outside of the whole, like, at the end, he said, like, love trumps hate or whatever, some gay slogan. He's like, love outdoes hate. And it's like, okay, aren't you the guy that like burned the American flag? Aren't you the guy who said F ICE like literally a couple of days ago? Okay. Love everybody, but F ICE. So we didn't pick up on the subtle political messaging, I guess, or the outside of political messaging, outside of he says, God bless America at the end, but really what America is. And he says this, in the lyrics of the song, that his idea of America is Cuba, Peru, Colombia, all of these countries. He thinks that all of that is America, which is just geographically inaccurate and not accurate at all. So, anyway, there was some meaning in his performance that you might not have picked up on because it wasn't sang in English, and he's Puerto Rican, so he had dancers dressed up as jabaros and pavas. Now, forgive me, I don't speak Spanish or anything, but I looked this up and I noticed the power lines. And I actually brought this up yesterday. In Mexico and South American countries are kind of known for this. Their power grids are terrible. They're shitholes. So if you're walking around in Mexico, you step off the American resort, you're going to hear buzzing from the power lines. The power lines are going to be real low to the ground, and the power poles are going to be crumbling. What little electricity they have, it's poor infrastructure. Okay, so he had dancers dressed up as jabaros and pavas. So jabaros and pavas, these are farmers in straw hats. Okay, that's what these dancers were, and they were climbing on top of power poles. And what this does, it comments on the island, Puerto Rico, particularly their power grid and how it's failing. So Bad Bunny stood, before the power pole or the power poles with the Puerto Ricans at the top, the farmers in the straw hats. And what this was, it was a political statement. Fix the power infrastructure. Okay. You probably didn't catch that. Why? Because he's saying the freaking thing in Spanish. But the track is entitled El Apagan. And this track that he was singing or performing, and he was waving the Puerto Rican flag in the air, he was protesting against the reoccurring power outages. Okay, now, I think it's kind of silly. You come to America and you're like protesting, like we've got issues here, right? And that's why Kendrick Lamar, his Super Bowl performance was fascinating because it was commentating on American politics, and it got some conversations going. But this is like Puerto Rican politics, and I don't think anybody really caught it. They couldn't have, because he didn't sing that part in English, and all of the fans were English speaking, probably, at least a majority of them. So he wants us to be upset about Puerto Rico's problems, whereas we have our own issues here, and we're going to talk about those issues and care about those issues more so than issues in Puerto Rico. That's just how humans are designed, right? And if you've got power issues, perhaps you should stop voting in Democrats and vote them out, and get control of the gangs that typically control the government in a lot of these places like Colombia, Cuba, Venezuela, right? Get that under control and be pro-President Donald Trump, who is trying to do that at a global level and via foreign policy. For example, capturing Maduro, indicting him, arresting him because he has an indictment, and having him stand trial, right? So, like, maybe you shouldn't be anti-Donald Trump then, if you want your power to be restored. Like Venezuela, give it a couple of years, they're going to be prospering, okay? Unrecognizable because of what Donald Trump did there with capturing Maduro, getting the Chinese, getting Russia, Iran out of there, these global superpowers that took advantage of these Latin American countries and the Latin American people. Stop supporting Democrats who take money from these foreign entities, bad money, right? Stop supporting Democrats who are blatantly anti-America. And maybe you'd see your power restored in Puerto Rico. When America prospers, the rest of the world prospers. And Democrats are constantly selling out America and doing whatever they can to benefit the Chinese and foreign powers, foreign enemies of ours. So that's just a thought I have. Bad Bunny, if you're really upset about the power outages in Puerto Rico, I'll tell you right now, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, some of these Democrats are not, that you advocate for, they're not going to help your power outages in Puerto Rico. Donald Trump is the one who liberated Venezuela just this year from a dictator who stole the election and installed himself as president of that country. Like, just a thought. Stop protesting. People who actually care about these places and want to see these places liberated from socialism. So the performance here, he was waving the Puerto Rican flag, and you might not have noticed it, but there was a slight change in the Puerto Rican flag. So during the performance, he was waving it, and this flag is typically like dark blue, but it was light blue in the performance, and people might not have noticed this, but that is a subtle political point. Puerto Rico, they have changed the color there. That is associated with push for independence there in the country. And people might not have noticed that, which, again, I kind of like these political messages, like the power outages, yes, the socialism, the lack of independence, the cartels controlling a lot of the drug gangsters controlling a lot of the government in these Latin American countries. That's definitely something that needs to be talked about, but you are for the team that pushes for that kind of stuff to continue. And you're blatantly against Donald Trump, who just this past year liberated Venezuela. So, yeah, outside of the political points, there was plenty of profanity you might not have caught. Why? Because you don't speak Spanish. Um, Now I don't allow the Super Bowl halftime show in my house. I watched the clips the next morning. I did watch most of the Super Bowl yesterday and picked out some of these political messaging type things that people didn't really pick up on. And then I threw it in translator and I was like, wait, I was like, hold on a second. The FCC better get on this. And Glenn Beck, he actually has a clip here that I'm going to play. The FCC better get on this, because if it was an English speaking singer who sang these lyrics, I would think that the NFL would get a fine. But just because he sung it in Spanish, I think people missed it. And that doesn't make it any less unacceptable. There were children at home, okay, watching this. This is one of the most watched things in entertainment, the Super Bowl. And I think that this should be a chance for America. I mean, this is one of the most watched programs all year. And this is a chance for us to show our virtue, to show what we're about here in the United States. And unfortunately, the NFL chose Bad Bunny, and this is what the NFL approved of. And I think that they need to get a knock on the door from the FCC. Take a listen. Here we go.
Don't speak Spanish. I just have to assume none of these lyrics were said on national television, because if I do speak Spanish, I would be writing the FCC if I had children in the room. But these are the lyrics that supposedly were said, and I can only read a few of them. Yes, so that your panties get wet, get horny and versatile, more slutty than Betty Boop. The one who got horny, mammy, was you. Stay killing with you. P with D, P with A, P with DD, with A. Yes, push it in. I mean, okay, your T's are rubbing my N's. This year I don't want sluts. I see you with a lot of jewels and they want to stay. Push it in. I see you really active and they want to stay. Push it in. Because you look hot. Because you look hot. Push it in completely. And then it goes to big A's and big T's and big P's and big C's. And at least he wasn't wearing a dress. But let me show you on the flip side what TPUSA was saying. And everybody got offended at first because Kid Rock started his set with a song that came out in 1999. It's vulgar. It talks about topless dancers, drinking, crooked cops, all of this stuff. And everybody's kind of like, wait, what is Kid Rock doing? Why? But then, if you follow the story arc, what happened? There's an acoustic set with two people playing a Christian hymn meant to be a bridge, an emotional bridge. Comes back to Kid Rock, introduced back to the stage as Robert Ritchie, which is his real name, okay? Then he plays a revised version of Till You Can't, which now the revised version ends with lyrics about Jesus Christ. This was a redemption story. And nowhere was it push it in, yeah, push it in.
So, wow. Yeah, I would hope that the NFL gets a tap, tap, tap at their door because this is unacceptable. I think that the FCC should fine them. Just because he's saying it in Spanish does not make that okay. If I spoke Spanish and if I had, kids in the room, I would be very, very upset. Here is just so he couldn't say the words. He's I think that was part of his radio program, Glenn Beck's radio program, so he couldn't say, the full words. But I'll say just a few of the lyrics here. Okay. She sucks my lollipop. She gets on her knees. How dare you, mommy, to come without panties? This is like what was sung. Okay. But P with D, a P with A, push it in, your tits rubbing my nipples. Like, this is the shit that went on at the Super Bowl. And those were the lyrics. So, meanwhile, you had TPUSA, the All American Halftime Show. People were pulled in they turned off the halftime show for Super Bowl, and then they went over to the TPUSA halftime show. I think it's got like 20 million views now, 5 million consecutive views, which is huge. It broke some live streaming records, and people would rather look at the TPUSA halftime show, which was, performed in a totally separate location. Now, here's some of Kid Rock's performance. Actually, let's see if I can pull this up. I do want to play some of it. But Kid Rock's performance, very good. And like Glenn Beck said, he opened the show with this song, and a lot of people were, offended by it. This is TPUSA type folk. American folks who, have values, and they were kind of upset that he had opened with this song. Here's the poll that we're going to talk about. This is the TMZ performance, or the TMZ poll. When you click on it and you vote for the performer that you want, you'll see where it's at. And I don't think that they thought that it would be this way. But the poll here, it's a TMZ poll, I don't think that they expected it to go this way. But it says 64% of people prefer or think that this is the better halftime show. 64% of people say that Kid Rock had the better halftime show than Bad Bunny, where he's pulling in at 35.5%. So let me share with you some of Kid Rock's performance. This is part of it. This is that beginning part that people took issue with, but there's a story arc to it. And by the end, Kid Rock actually starts singing about Jesus Christ. Take a listen. I mean, it's a very intense performance, and I think he did well with it. Considering, I'm not a big fan of that song. I'm trying to look for the other one. I guess I don't have it, but I think it was Cody Johnson's song, and he kind of revised it a little bit, and there's a verse in there about Jesus Christ. And I don't think that TMZ thought that they were going to get these types of results. But Bad Bunny, he's not preferred, obviously. The Turning Point show crushed the Bad Bunny show in this vote. The poll that TMZ put out there. And, this is a big message to the NFL. Hey, people are literally tuning out, and they're going to go watch a halftime show somewhere else that's not even performed at the Super Bowl. They're tuning out, and they're going to go watch this show. And it has close to, like I said, 20 million views right now. People were so turned off by Bad Bunny, they went to go watch this halftime show that TPUSA turned on, or put on. So 20 million views at the time. I think like live streamed, it was like max like 5 million, which is huge, broke records. And this is loud. It's loud and clear what the American people want. And, this is the National Football League. It should really reflect the values and the virtues of the nation. And I don't know about you, but the Safara song that he sang, P with D, P with A, your tits rubbing on my nipples, this year I don't want sluts. I don't know about you, but I don't think that is a reflection of the United States. And it's kind of unfortunate because I really I appreciate that Bad Bunny commented on Puerto Rico and their power grid. I thought that was clever. I also thought that the political messaging with the flag, the independence, the light blue flag, he really had a platform there. But to share the political message of the Puerto Ricans, I guess, I mean, that's not going to go over well. This is the National Football League, and Americans care about American issues. That's just how we're wired. But he really kind of screwed up, because you start singing about P and D, and tits. You've completely destroyed whatever subtle messaging, political messaging you had. Kendrick Lamar, he had subtle political messaging, and it was not that profanity laced, his performance, and there was some credibility there, which is why it stirred a conversation amongst Americans. But you aren't going to have any conversations about the power grid in Puerto Rico, because you've thrown your credibility out the window by singing about tits. So yeah. Let's get to this viral clip. I'm going to take a quick break, but smash that like button, share this out with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. I'll be right back. We're going to talk about the viral clip of the sheriff in San Joaquin County. This is in California. The RNC posted this clip, and it's gone viral now. They posted it over the weekend, and it's about this story that I think a lot of people missed. I did not know this story, to be quite frank with you, until I saw the video go viral, and I was like, let me look into this. This has been going on since 2023, where this Pakistani citizen has been in the courts. He's out right now on bail. He's not in custody. This Pakistani citizen voted in the California election, the 2020 election. But it didn't stop there, because he forced people to vote for him and Joe Biden. He was ballot harvesting, all of it. It was a crazy case. But we're going to cover that here next. Smash that like button, share this out with your friends. Hey, this is Conservative Cat Clips, and this is the place where we remind you that your children come from God and they don't come from the Department of Education. The government wants to raise your kids. They want to feed them breakfast. They want to tell them about gender ideology and gender identity as young as kindergarten. They want to start them out really early. They want to tell your kids how many pronouns they should have, and they want your kids to learn all the pronouns by the age of 3rd grade. Okay. Meanwhile, they can't keep bathrooms clean in their schools. They can't keep their test scores up, reading, writing, and arithmetic. They can't keep those scores above sea level. The truth here is that bureaucrats don't love their kids. They don't know their quirks, their fears, their hearts, and they certainly don't care what the Bible says about fearing, or about raising them in fearing the Lord. Okay, so in Psalm 127, verse 3, children are a heritage from the Lord, not a project for the state, not a cultural science experiment. They are your responsibility, your blessing, and your mission. Okay, but what happens if you step in and they say, I'll take it from here? Okay, and what happens when you step in and say, hey, I'm actually going to take responsibility and I'm going to participate in raising my child? You show up to the school board meetings, you ask about the curriculum, you object to Drag Queen Story Hour and Drag Queen Library Story Hour and all of these pornographic books in the libraries. What happens when you say, I'm going to take it from here, I'm going to start participating in my mission and my responsibility in raising up my child. You are deemed a domestic terrorist, okay? If you start showing up and if you actually start taking responsibility over raising your child, you are dangerous to democracy. They'll say that. And they'll say that all because you just started loving your kid enough to be involved. So we've normalized this idea that parents should just hand over their kids for 8 hours a day and play catch up over a microwave dinner and try to catch up on who your kid actually is. Your kids are strangers. That's not parenting, that's outsourcing. So the product here is a generation that is anxious, that is confused, and they are spiritually hollow. What if we flipped the script? Really, what if we turned off the screens, cracked open a Bible, and actually parented the way Deuteronomy 6 tells us to parent, at home and all of the time? And I think that our future of the country actually depends on this. And I hope that we start parenting like our future and like the future of the country depends on it, because it does. So don't be intimidated. God gave you those kids for a reason. Raise them up in truth, teach them real values, and never hand over this sacred duty to the folks who say remote learning is the way to go, or gender identity, you can identify as whatever the hell you want. Don't hand over that sacred duty of parenting and raising your children to people who are just wacky weirdos. You can raise your children, and you are required to raise your children because they are a gift from God, and He's bestowed a sacred duty on you as a parent. This has been Conservative Cat Clips. Hey, hit that like button, share this out with your friends, subscribe to the channel. Let's dig into this story. Run far, far away from election officials and elected county clerks who say that vote by mail ballot is safe, and vote by mail ballots for all. I'm pro that. Run for the hills. If they're saying that, they clearly are naive or they're nefarious and they should be investigated. And run for the hills if they're anti-voter ID. Voter ID just makes sense. And this story makes that clear. So the sheriff in San Joaquin County in California says, hey, you're able to register and cast a vote if you don't live in the country. What? And he talked about this Pakistani citizen who voted in the 2020 California election. And this video has gone viral. Take a listen.
The voting system is structured. We see quite a few flaws. You're able to register and cast a vote if you don't live in the country, as evident of his brother in Pakistan. And I think we have some evidence of 2 or 3 other people out of the country that voted. Is that correct?
Yeah, approximately 2 or 3 other people out of the country, as well as people residing outside of the district.
Okay. The online voter registration system, it seems to be an honor system. Anybody can put information in there to register to vote. All you have to do is click a box and say that you're not lying, and then you'll get an email from the Secretary of State or something in the mail saying thank you for registering to vote, and there you are. Once you're on the voter rolls, anytime an election comes around, guess what? You get mailed a ballot, right? You get mailed something to vote. So we found that a little bit problematic.
Okay, so let me break this down. Here is how people steal elections and how Governor Gavin Newsom steals elections in California. San Joaquin County Sheriff says voting records show people from outside the country are voting in California's election, including Pakistan. Okay, he said it wasn't even just one. It was like 2 or 3 more that they found that had voted outside of the country in the 2020 election, the California election. He said, quote, the online voter registration system, it seems to be an honor system. Yeah, it's the same thing in Illinois. You go to register to vote, you're able to register and cast a vote if you don't live in the country. That's what he says. Anybody can put information in there. They can register to vote, and all you have to do is click a box saying that you're not lying about being a U.S. citizen and residing in the United States. And hey, I'm not lying. And then you'll get sent an email from the Secretary of State or something in the mail saying, thank you for registering to vote. And there you are. Like that's all it is a honor system. And that's what the SAVE Act would change with voter ID. It is not an honor system where you just check a box and say, I'm a U.S. citizen. You actually have to show an identification that proves your citizenship. Okay. So once you're on the voter rolls, okay, once you're registered to vote, so that just gets you on the voter roll. Okay. Registering to vote, you get the thank you from the Secretary of State. Anytime an election comes around, guess what? You get mailed a ballot. Now, I'm pretty sure that's the same if you opt in. In the state of Illinois, it's a little bit different than the state of California. If you opt in for permanent vote by mails, ballots to be sent to you. Okay. If you opt into that, you will automatically every year, if you're registered to vote, and like I said, the registered to vote system is all based on an honor system. You check a box and you say, yeah, I'm not lying. I'm a U.S. citizen, and you're on the voter roll. You'll get a thank you in the mail from Secretary of State's office. Here in the state of Illinois, there's a place to check. Hey, I want a permanent vote by mail ballot, which means every year, as long as you're registered to vote and you receive that thank you from the Secretary of State's office, you're going to be sent a vote by mail. Okay, so you get. But in California, I think it's a little different. You don't have to opt into the permanent vote by mail. You just automatically get sent a vote by mail ballot in the mail. Now, it's really odd. When I was living in Illinois, I would get vote by mail ballots, and I've never checked. Obviously, I'm a vote by in-person voter. Never checked any kind of boxes, but I would get vote by mail ballots sent to me. So I don't know how exactly that happened because I never checked that box. But see, this just goes to show you there's flubs in the system, flaws in the system. No matter how careful you are, there's going to be flaws. Why? Because vote by mail is gay. Okay. And it's just, there's so much potential for fraud with vote by mail for all. I'm not anti sending our troops vote by mails like we've done for years prior to 2020. Not against that at all. I am against just sending by default. In this case, California, they send vote by mails just by default because you're registered to vote. In Illinois, it's supposed to be you check a box for a vote by mail ballot, a permanent vote by mail ballot. But even in Illinois, this happened to me. I would get vote by mail ballots, not even just for me, but for prior residents who were at my house, prior to me. I would get their stuff in the mail all the time, their vote by mail ballots in the mail. There's so much potential for fraud there. You get mailed a ballot in California if you're simply registered to vote. You get mailed something to vote, and the sheriff there said that's a bit problematic. Because the registering to vote, it's honor system. You just have to check a box, say like, I'm not lying. I am a U.S. citizen. And then you're registered to vote, and then you get sent a ballot. Okay. So he says that people from other counties, so this is San Joaquin County in California. He said that people from other counties always vote across county lines as well. So say they lived in San Joaquin, but now they move to a different county. They'll get a ballot sent to them, and they will vote in the San Joaquin County elections rather than the county they now reside in. So that's what he was saying in this press conference. Like, people from other counties always vote across county lines. We saw in McLean County, McLean County voters were sent, vote by mail ballots with the wrong county return address on it. So you fill out your vote by mail ballot as a McLean County voter, and then you package it up, and then the return address on it goes to a totally different county clerk's office, not the county in which you are voting in and residing in, but the vote by mail ballot goes to a completely different county. We saw that happened, where there were mess ups on the return envelopes. The return addresses were messed up on the envelopes. Okay, so social media users were wondering, hey, does this kind of stuff actually happen where like people do the honor system and they're actually illegal immigrants and they're doing this honor system when registering to vote, and they're not actually United States citizens who are capable of voting in federal elections? Does this kind of stuff actually happen when you register to vote online in California? And yes, it does happen, and it did happen. And this is the case that the sheriff was talking about. This is a Shakir Khan. So he's a bit of a con artist. Shakir Khan, he's a Pakistani, and he is now the former councilman of Lodi, California. So he's now former city councilman of Lodi, California. He was arrested in 2023, February 2023, and he was charged with 14 felonies related to election fraud. Okay, so this was the viral clip that went viral over the weekend. And I bring this up because the left will always say there's no need for voter ID. There's no need to ban vote by mail ballots for all. There's no need for that because there's not widespread fraud. This is just yet another example of fraud. And you might be able to argue the case that it's not widespread, but look, folks, like just because your entire neighborhood hasn't gotten robbed doesn't mean you don't put locks on your doors, okay? So my neighbors across the street from them, they haven't gotten robbed. Now, maybe down the block, Billy got robbed. But either way, I mean, it doesn't matter. You should put locks on your doors, even if Billy didn't get robbed, right? Because that's just the smart thing to do. Prevention from bad things happening, and being proactive. So this guy, he pleaded, our fella here, Shakir Khan, the Pakistani immigrant, he pleaded no contest. So he's not contesting his conviction, but he's not pleading guilty. So pleading no contest means the defendant accepts the conviction and the sentencing, but doesn't want to admit guilt. He's consenting sort of to these charges, but he wants to avoid civil cases in the future. So he doesn't want to be liable for civil cases in the future. That's what he's doing here. He was arrested in 2023. He's out right now. Okay. He's not in custody. I'll get to that here in just a second, but this is kind of like a guilty plea, but not really. It protects him from admission of fault in potential civil lawsuits. Okay. So he receives immediate criminal penalties if convicted, but won't be liable for the civil issues and civil lawsuits down the road. So he also is trying to swap his incarceration. So he's no contest or contest to he's entered that plea, but he's also trying to swap his incarceration to mental health treatment. So he's claiming mental health diversion, which allows him to, if he can prove that he has qualified disorder, to swap his incarceration for treatment rather. So that's where he's at, essentially. But the details of what this guy did are very alarming. Allegedly, what he did. He hasn't been convicted yet. Like I said, he's out, and it's all kind of being worked through the courts right now. He has a mental diversion, which means he's trying to get treatment as a part of his sentencing rather than incarceration. So allegedly what he did is very alarming. Okay. More alarming than, what the sheriff even really talks about. You look into the case, and this is the grab bag of every worst case scenario, and it came from a combination of vote by mail, online voter registration, universal mail-in ballots, and ballot harvesting. Okay, so here's kind of the highlights of this story. You guys can look more into this story. Like I said, this happened in 2020. He was arrested and charged in 2023. It's 2026, and the guy has yet to face some sort of conviction or sentencing, by the way. But there was a raid on this guy's home, okay, in October of 2020 on unrelated charges. Okay, so they raided this guy's home, not because of the election stuff, okay? Now, what they found in his home, they observed a stash of 41 sealed and completed mail ballots for the 2020 presidential election. So this is October, November 2020, right? This is a month before the presidential election, the 2020 election. He had 41 ballots all ready to go. Now, California has ballot harvesting laws. Illinois has ballot harvesting laws as well. So they couldn't take the ballots, okay, because that was legal for him to have 41 vote by mail ballots. Like I said, in Illinois, if I wanted to, I could walk around my neighborhood and collect everybody's vote by mail ballots in my neighborhood and just bring them back to my house and then eventually turn them in to be counted. Okay, that is how California law exists, and that is how Illinois law exists, because they have ballot harvesting laws. So the ballots can be seized, because it's not wrong to have 41 other people's ballots, technically under California law and Illinois law. But investigators, they did photograph the ballots, and they documented that they found 41 ballots at this guy's house. Now, let's be clear. His house, I think they raided the house in Pakistan. Don't quote me on that. Let me dig into that. Okay. So in the fall of 2021, okay, fast forward. A year later, officials noticed 70 people were registered to vote at his address in California. Okay, so this is his California address. Okay, and 70 people were registered to vote. So like when you do online registration in California, you have to put your address down. 70 people were registered to vote at his address in California, Lodi, California, and this address was recognized as Khan's address. Shariz Khan or something is his name. He's a Pakistani. Okay, so his home, his California home, unrelated charge, they found 41 ballots just chilling. Okay, mail-in ballots just chilling. Not against the law because of the ballot harvesting laws, so they couldn't obtain them or seize them. Fast forward in 2021, officials are kind of coming through. They're noticing, holy crap, 70 people are registered at his address to vote. Okay. So sheriff's investigators determined that Khan had used the California online voter registration system to re-register existing California voters from other districts to his address. And at least a few were non-citizens living in foreign countries, including his brother in Pakistan. So he was registering people from out of country to vote using his address, his email address, his phone number. You plug all that stuff in when you do your online voter registration. So he was registering out of the 70 people. There were some people who weren't even living in the country, his brother being one in Pakistan, but he used his address for his brother in Pakistan and used his email. Okay, so Khan used his email, his home address, his phone number, but plugged his brother's name in and registered him to vote. And then he registered Californians from other districts with his home address. So say there was a county next over, not San Joaquin, but the neighboring county. He took California voters from that county, registered them using his address, and he did this through the state's online voter registration system. Okay. Investigators reviewed ballot return envelopes from ballots cast in 2020 general election. Okay. So they reviewed the ballot return envelopes, the vote by mail ballots. You fill it out, you send it in, and it's a return address. The San Joaquin election officials probably received some of these ballots in the 2020 election. The investigators reviewed those ballots, and they were being maintained by the registrar, and they found that many of these return envelopes had ties to the Khan address. Okay. And they all had the same handwriting on the outside. Okay. So you plug in your address, your address is the return address. And then there's already printed address, usually, of where it's going, which would be the San Joaquin registrar's office. Okay. So he had all the same handwriting. You see what this guy did. He registered a lot of people fraudulently to his address and received a ton of vote by mail ballots. And he filled them all out and sent them to the registrar's office. Okay. And this was all done through the online voter registration system in California. They sent him the ballots. There's no verification to register online. You just have to do it on an honor system. And he was sent like 70 vote by mail ballots, and he filled them all out with his same handwriting and casted them. Okay. So in October of 2022, officials found more than a dozen unopened ballots for the midterm election. Okay, so he not only frauded in 2020, but he also was committing fraud in the midterm election in October of 2022. None of them addressed to Khan, and many not sent to his address at his home. Okay, officials also found unopened ballots for the midterm election. None of them addressed to Khan, and many not sent sent to his address at his home. Officials also found Khan's nomination form for his city council candidacy and determined that there were numerous signatures that were forged on it. Okay. So in 2022, I think that they found unopened ballots, not addressed to Khan, but addressed to other people for the 2022 midterm. So he was trying to fraud 2020, 2022. Now, if they weren't sent to his address at home, I'd be curious where they were sent. I'm just reading the sheriff's, kind of giving you the highlights of the investigation. But he was a city council. He's now former city councilman of Lodi, California. He forced voters whose information he'd hijacked to vote for him and Joe Biden. Okay. So they, by either filling them out himself or threatening that voter. So he would request people's ballots be sent to his house, and he would, fill them out, all same handwriting, sent them back to the registrar's office to be counted. Or what he would do is, threaten people to vote for him. And Joe Biden. Khan heard investigators were speaking to people once the investigators were, investigating this fraud. They were speaking to people he'd fraudulently registered to vote. So what he did, like, so his brother who was in Pakistan, he fraudulently registered him to vote. He didn't even live in the country. He used his address. He used, California voters from a different county, used their names, but his address, obtained vote by mail ballots for them. And once he found out that the cops were talking to people that he had registered to vote fraudulently, he made a TikTok pretty much intimidating them and threatening them, a video. So Khan registered so many people to vote without the appropriate documentation through the California online voting system, because all it is honor system. Then he casted those ballots and had them counted. Some of them were counted, by the way. Okay, so they didn't like figure this out. Like, some of them were counted, and so there is 2020 election fraud in this case, definitely. Okay, so the short answer here is California's VoteCal system enables fraud. Okay, despite the objections from liberals and Governor Gavin Newsom, like, clearly he pulled this off. Now, investigators didn't arrest him until 2023, and there were ballots cast by Khan that got through the registrar's office. Okay, and he not only did it in 2020, but he did it in 2022, fraudulent things. So San Joaquin County Register, Olivia Hale, broke down how the online system works in a press conference when announcing his arrest. She said the potential fraudster or the potential voter or fraudster goes online to either the Secretary of State website or California DMV, and they register or update their current registration to vote. Okay. First-time voters simply check a box saying that I am a U.S. citizen to prove their citizenship. Okay. Potential voters provide a California driver's license and a California ID number, or the last four of their social security number as identification. Okay, so there is somewhat identification going on here with the online voter registration, or when you re-register or update your current registration at a California DMV or Secretary of State's site. So registration information then flows into the VoteCal database, and then it's sent to the county registrar. But the county registrar's office, their staff is to ensure that there is an entry in the field or for either a California ID number or the last four of somebody's social. Like, that's their job. So once the California VoteCal system gets it, it gets sent to the county. And then the county is like, okay, do they have their last four of their social security number? If they have the last four of their social security number and there's an entry there, we move on and we put the registration in from the pending stage to the active stage. And then county staff, they don't have, the signature on file from the DMV if they register at the DMV and they re-register. So they don't have any kind of signatures. It's only if they're registering for the first time where they get the signature. But if the voter is updating their registration at the DMV, they don't get the signature. Okay, through the VoteCal system. So all they get is all they have to do, the county, is ensure that there's an entry for the, last four of your social, or for the California driver's license or whatever. So registrars are not authorized to verify voter citizenship. Okay, they don't even get the signatures for signature verification for some of these registries that are re-registrations. They only get that for first-time voters. Okay, and obviously there's nothing to compare it to when they're a first-time voter. So there is no such thing as signature verification. And in California law, county registers are not authorized to verify voter citizenship. Even under federal law, a voter is only required to attest under the penalty of perjury that they're a U.S. citizen. So that's what the SAVE Act would change. Hey, you have to prove you're a U.S. citizen. You can't just check a box and attest that you're a U.S. citizen. And California does require somewhat identification, like a driver's license number, an ID number, last four of your social, and that gets transferred to, once it's in the vocal system, to the county. But those aren't verified against any kind of database. And, a place like California, non-citizens, illegal immigrants, they get driver's license numbers, they get social security numbers, because they're a sanctuary state and that's their policies. So they can get identification as a non-U.S. citizen. Okay. So once the registration is active, since California is now has now universal vote by mail ballots each election, those mail-in ballots just go directly to the voter and the address that the voter has on file. Okay, so there's no true process for the county registrar or the county to verify that these people are legitimate who are online voting. Okay, or online registering. If they online register, there's a box that simply says, I attest that what I'm saying is true. And then once it gets to the county registrar's office, it's like, okay, there's nothing really much we can do as far as verification at this point. So we're just going to pass it on from pending to active. And now that you're an active voter on our on our voter rolls, we're just going to send you a ballot by default. Okay. And as the sheriff pointed out, in this case, Shakir Khan's case, he fraudulently re-registered existing voters, many of them Pakistani immigrants, to his address. Okay. So he re-registered these existing voters and then he forced them to vote the way he told them to vote. Okay. So here's how it all played out. This guy, he's in San Joaquin, and I would like to say these Pakistani immigrants are just victims. They're probably not as victimized as you might think. They would probably be intimidated by him because these unrelated charges. Remember when I said they raided his house in October of 2020 and they found those 41 ballots just sitting there ready to go for the 2020 election to be sent in. That search was the raid on his home was because of an illegal gambling operation. And he was a part of organized crime. And he was the leader of that ring. So Khan, probably a pretty intimidating person, but it sounds like he knows the Pakistani community right there in San Joaquin, California county. And it sounds like he was registering them from his house, to their knowledge, maybe. But he would get their ballots and, he'd either fill them out himself and seal them up, or he would have these Pakistani immigrants. He'd get their vote by mail ballots, re-register them, and then get their ballots and have them fill it out and force them to fill it out in his favor and in Joe Biden's favor. Okay, so there's body cam footage out there of this, folks, where police are interviewing people, the people that he re-registered for. Like I said, the re-registration, it's harder to track because there's no signature. So first-time voters, this guy's smart. There's a signature verification or signature, but the county registrar's office can't even verify against that. There's nothing to verify against it. The signature is the same on their identification, and the signature is on this or the same on the online voter registration. So once they get it through the vote cal system, Like there's no true way to verify that this person is who they say they are. It's just like, okay, they online registered to vote and they happen to have an identification. So it's not like a fail safe, but it is like a somewhat of a step. But this guy was smart and he said, well, I'm just going to re-register people, and then the county won't have the signatures at all if I just re-register people. But anyway, so there were investigators, there's body cam footage of people who essentially had their voting privileges stolen because he re-registered them. By re-registering them at his address, he obtained the vote by mail ballot, and then he forced some of these Pakistani immigrants he knew in the area to vote for him and Joe Biden. So there's a video out there. A voter confirms that he did not sign Khan's candidate nomination form. Like I said, he had also committed forgery on his nomination form and had a bunch of people signed on his nomination form that didn't actually sign. So in the body cam footage, there's also admission that, hey, I didn't sign for Khan. There's also Khan told this voter how to fill out the ballot, one for me, one for Biden. So there were investigations that took place and body cam footage where they were interviewing people, and one of them said, like, hey, he told me to vote this way on my ballot. He registered, he obtained the vote by mail ballot, and he told me to vote this way and intimidated me into voting that way. Another person told them that Khan took her ID until she filled out her ballot the way he had instructed her to. I don't know how much these people knew what Khan was doing. It could be that these people had no idea what Khan was doing, and he was just re-registering them, getting vote by mail ballots in their name, and then he was bullying them into voting for him. But I mean, I'm thinking that maybe some of these people had an idea of what he was doing. Investigators also played videos during this press conference with the sheriff. Voters who were properly registered to vote, but they weren't in his district, and they were re-registered by Khan at his address, so they would be eligible to vote for him. So they were in a county over, and he re-registered them at at the San Joaquin County, just so they could vote for him in the city council race. So those voters confirmed that they had not moved. Hey, I didn't move to Khan's address, and he was re-registering them to his address, and that they intimidated them into going along with his scheme here. So, yeah, he was in a position of power. And imagine this, like universal mail-in ballots, which we don't have here in Illinois, but you can request a permanent vote by mail ballot. But universal mail-in ballots, ballot harvesting, people of power, they can definitely use this for their nefarious purposes. Like imagine a union boss receiving ballots to their home, right? And you've got workers, some of them maybe possibly even illegal immigrants, okay? And you could force them to fill out their ballots in a particular way right there at work. You're a union boss, you've got illegal immigrants, you have this power structure over them. You could definitely request ballots in their name, or not request, but be sent ballots in their name by re-registering them online to your address. Or say you run a homeless shelter. These people don't even have addresses, okay? What's to stop you from encouraging all of your clients at this homeless shelter to register to vote there, use the shelter as the address, and force them to fill out their ballots a certain way? There's a power structure there, like, hey, we're not going to let you stay at the shelter unless you vote our way. I could foresee that happening. The list goes on. So the issues here in San Joaquin County, their voter rolls, is not limited to what was going on at his address, at Khan's address. Okay, I want to make that clear. So in the press conference, the sheriff kind of gives out some numbers of what exactly the voter rolls look like. I'm going to take a quick break, but smash that like button, share this out with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. I'll be right back.
Check your blind spots. Men love to call things out. Weakness, hypocrisy, failure. We're wired to spot threats and take action. But Jesus didn't say, never judge. He said, judge not, that you be not judged. Why? Because judgment without humility is a trap. It turns you into a sniper with a log jammed in your eye. Matthew 7 hits hard. Jesus calls out a man who sees a speck in his brother's eye, but ignores the plank in his own. He's not saying, don't correct. He's saying, clean your lens first. Self-examination before confrontation. It takes guts to get real with your own sin, to admit you've gone soft, to face your pride, lust, laziness, or bitterness head on. But that's what real men do. They sharpen themselves before they sharpen others. Jesus didn't just want behavior police. He wanted heart warriors. Men who get the plank out, then humbly help a brother see clearly. Men who don't just flex spiritual authority, but walk with spiritual maturity. In verse 6, it's about discernment. Don't toss holy things to pigs. Don't waste truth on ears that mock it. Know when to speak. Know when to walk away. Before you blast through your next workout, check your form. Same with life. Patriot Pump fuels clean, focused energy, but you've still got to show up. Power with purpose. Clarity with strength. That's how you train. That's how you lead.
Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel. Before we took the break, I was telling you a little bit about this press conference that the sheriff had. Let's see here. Yeah, I wanted to share this part of the press conference where he talks about the voter rolls and people who are registered to vote. So they found, San McQueen, they found one person was registered to vote who was born in 1850, so a dead person. They also found 232 people who were registered to vote with an address to prisons, local prisons. Okay, there were 4,144 people who were registered to vote that were 90 years or older and older. Okay, and then there were 125 people on the voter rolls that were registered to vote, and the address in which they were registered to vote at came back to nonprofits, NGOs, non-government organizations, and various businesses, like not residents or home addresses. So there were also approximately 300 people with no first name registered to vote, just a last name. Okay, so this VoteCal online voter system is obviously not great. There are 110 people that were double voters. So basically they had the same name, date of birth, address, but their voter ID numbers were different. Okay, so they're double voters, so they're registered twice, but they're registered like quite literally twice, and they have like two different voter ID numbers. So people were registered to vote at shelters, various shelters, and all that, and they found one voter even in the voter rolls with the name Jesus Christ. That can't possibly be correct. Right. And the sheriff said, we found that one to be very interesting. So this is just one, I want to be clear, this is just one county. Like they found their voters in their one county with all of these issues. And we know that there's other counties that are probably in much worse shape. I'm looking at Illinois, Chicago, okay, Cook County. I bet they're in much worse shape than San Joaquin, California. But I'm sure states have flaws in their voter registration systems, just like this. And, we know that there are 6 states with universal mail-in ballots. So that's not Illinois, but universal mail-in ballots for all, which means you're registered to vote, you automatically get a vote by mail ballot. That's what universal mail-in ballots is. We have something similar to that here in Illinois. It's not as bad, but there are 6 states that do that. And then there are 2 more that use universal mail-in ballots for general elections. So not primaries. So 6 states do that for primaries. But there's 2 more states that do that for primaries and general elections. Look, you're risking bad actors like this Shakir Khan guy. Okay, you're risking bad actors abusing the system, using fraud and intimidation tactics to gain the system, and these bad actors are spreading because the policies, the universal mail-in ballots, the ballot harvesting laws, like we're coming up with ways to make it easier for the bad guys to do these bad things. So San Joaquin, the county sheriff and the registrar, they stated that there were potential federal laws broken, election laws broken by Mr. Khan. And, despite that, the Biden DOJ, this all happened during the Biden DOJ, the Department of Justice. They were completely uninterested in pursuing any charges. And the California's Department of Justice, the San Joaquin, they're going after him. They've charged him with 14 felony counts. But California Department of Justice, Biden DOJ, they didn't do anything. The Attorney General there, Rob Bonta in California, is not focused on this case with Shakir Khan and what he did, but rather he's focused on preventing Huntington Beach from enacting voter ID requirements. They want to enact it locally, and he's trying to prevent that. They want to ensure there in Huntington Beach that the immigrant population doesn't vote. The illegal immigrant population doesn't vote. And he's trying to prevent that through not allowing them to have voter ID locally. And it's like this guy, the Attorney General in California, what he should be focused on is like, hey, some of these Pakistani immigrants that Shakir Khan conned into, voting for him and forced via intimidation tactics. This guy should be like, all for that, like getting justice for these Pakistani immigrants who were abused and threatened by this thug. But he's not interested in any of that. He's not pursuing charges. Shakir Khan remains out on bond, despite entering into a no contest plea with 14 election fraud felonies, and he has yet to be sentenced. And all of this started to happen, in 2023 was when he was officially charged. So yeah, this is a big deal. And this just goes to show you, and I wanted to walk you through this to show you that, hey, fraudsters, potential voters who are actually fraudsters, they can game the system, and they do it through a multifaceted approach using vote by mail ballots, ballot harvesting, online voter registration. Like that stuff should not be a thing. He used all of it to game the system and to get himself elected, and to get Joe Biden elected. And the Biden DOJ, the California DOJ, they didn't do anything. Or Department of Justice, the Attorney General, they didn't do anything. This San Joaquin sheriff and the registrar's office, they're the ones who are pursuing this at a local level, the 14 election felonies. And even then, the guy still hasn't been sentenced and convicted, because he's coming up with all kinds of mental diversion, and he's entered a no contest plea. And he still hasn't been sentenced, and it's 2026. He was charged in 2023. It took him 3 years to investigate the fraud that he committed in the 2020 election and the potential fraud he tried in 2022, the midterms, to steal that election as well. And we're talking about people who on body cam admitted that they were threatened and intimidated into casting a ballot for him, and were that they did not sign his nominating papers. There's people out there like this, and I think it's more common than we would like to think. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel. That's going to be it for us today. Subscribe, and we will be back tomorrow morning bright and early, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. Bye-bye. Love you so much.